Oh, hey dear Daisy. Love you, girl. So, it is another week. This is going to be a weird week. Things are a little bit different this week because last week we did the agave run, and that means we don't have anything to distill this week because the agave fermentation is going to take 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, depending on how well it does. We're still kind of checking the bricks and the pH throughout the entire process to make sure it's going well. But yeah, that's gonna take a minute. So we get to transfer it out of the mash tun this week into totes to let it sit and just ferment the rest of the way. So we can start mashing some whiskey this week. But outside of that, doing another whiskey mash, I think that's about it. There are some cool things I want to highlight to y'all this week. We'll begin in that. Let's finally get into the distillery. We'll start milling some grains today. We're going to transfer over the agave. I want to show you some bad things that happened with the condensers because it's a bit of a nightmare. Also, new camera, so we're going to be not using the gimbal this week, and we're just going to be using the new camera because the new camera has in-body image stabilization, so hopefully we're good. If not, I mean, we'll adapt. So we're finally in here today. Got the auger running on the mash tun so I can get an accurate reading of how the agave is looking before I swap it over. But since we are milling for today, so we can mash it single malt tomorrow, we basically need to get these grains start milling because, like you noticed last time we did it, the milling takes forever. So any second I'm here and we're not milling, that just means I need to be here for longer throughout the day. And I don't know about you, but I like not being in a hot warehouse for no reason if I don't need to be. So I'll get the grains down, we'll start milling, and then we'll start working on some other things, and I'll kind of show you here and there what I'm doing. Also, last time I did a video, I think it was my first video, someone mentioned I should just pull down the pallet with the forklift. I'm a little not super competent with the forklift, but I can't believe I didn't think about that. So that's what we're gonna do today because, again, I am not trying to break my back getting grains down if I don't have to. I don't know why I didn't think the forklift exists for a reason.
Here we go.
Alright, so the pH on the agave is a little out of whack. So what I did is I added a bit more calcium to raise the pH because it's a little bit low, and we're about to put it in the tubs that the camera is actually currently sitting on. So I want to make sure the pH is squared away before I move it. So while that is kind of doing its thing, we need to move the condenser. So these are the condensers. We're not going to be running anything this upcoming week, but I just still like to have them scored away. So basically we're just going to move them directly from the spirit still. Ow. We're going to move them from the spirit still, there's stuff on the ground here, to the stripping still because that's the next place we're going to use them. So I like to have it kind of squared away. And in case if you didn't notice, we haven't been doing this for very long, but that is now a stainless steel condenser rather than a copper condenser, which is what I'm going to get into next after we move these over. Well, there's your problem right there. You got a leak in your coolant. So, like I said, By the way, this is what our condensers look like on the inside. These are all DIY, just like everything we have here. The still was built from hand, from scratch with copper. Same with these bad boys. These were all built by hand. And over the last stripping run, we discovered there was a leak in one of these. It's very small, didn't really affect anything production-wise per se, but we noticed that we were still producing even after we shut off the still, which science-wise, it doesn't make any sense. You know, after you reach the top temperature and you shut it off, you shouldn't be getting anything more, but I leave on the coolant for like an additional like 5-ish minutes to kind of see exactly, you know, just to make sure that we don't overheat anything, things don't vaporize, you know, just in the off chance that maybe something is still coming off. I don't know, I'm a little overcautious, so I'm not really worried about running the water for an extra 5 minutes or so. But we were producing something, so I basically ran like a closed circuit test through the condensers to check if there was a leak. We noticed on the big one, there's a leak. That's why we are now using the stainless steel one for the top part of our condensers, which kind of sucks for 2 reasons. Because the top condensers, it's smaller now. So that means there's less surface area that the vaporized distillate is running through to condense. Thus, we're gonna either have to run more coolant through it to cool it down, or we're gonna have to push less power through the still, which is gonna basically just slow everything down or use up more water, which if we were already running it on full blast like we do with our stripping still, that's not really an option. So that means we're gonna have to run the stripping still at like less power, which means it's just gonna take longer, which sucks. And also the fact that that is stainless steel instead of copper like this bad boy is. So the copper, it conducts heat a little bit better, so it's a little bit more efficient than the stainless steel is. So it's just kind of one of those unfortunate things. Building this is significantly past my scope of understanding. I mean, I understand it a bit, I'm just not competent with it. So when the master distiller gets back in a few weeks, he's gonna rebuild these, get this fixed, square away that problem. But for the time being, we're just gonna be running things a little bit longer. So that's why we're now using the stainless steel condenser instead of this beautiful one. I'll do kind of like a little bit of a close up. It's basically literally, in theory, it's supposed to be a closed system. Clearly, like I said, there's a freaking leak in this one. But basically, it's just a bunch of little tiny copper tubes that are all kind of soldered together, and water runs in between. Basically, it's a closed system where water runs around these cold tubes. So as the vapor enters there, it condenses and then becomes distillate. Water comes in through here, goes out through there. You know, in theory, again, that works. This one's a leaky one, so now we got that beautiful, not beautiful, where are we? Stainless steel one right there, which is just, again, inefficient, but it is what it is. So now that we got the condenser squared away, it's time for us to get rocking and rolling on getting the agave in these totes. I spent hours sanitizing, getting them clean to move the agave into the totes the other day, so we can have a clean, squared away agave fermentation, which again, this is just one of the difficult things about fermenting agave from syrup. With our infrastructure, we only got the 1 mash tun, so they're just gonna be fermenting here where we can't control the heat. We can't really control much of anything. I mean, we're relying completely on the agitation of the yeast eating and off-putting the gas to mix in things too if we have to adjust the pH. So it's kind of a little funky, but again, we need to make room for that single malt because we're making single malt tomorrow, and that's quite frankly the priority over agave. So let's get the pump set up, get that squared away, and let's start pumping in some freaking agave into these tubs, and we'll get that mash tun cleaned out. So if I set this up right, got this all squared away, when I press this and I turn it this way, we should now be pumping the agave into here. Which we are. Heck yeah. All right, well, let's let this pump in there. It's gonna take probably like 20-ish minutes to pump that, because that's a boatload of agave syrup, fermentation, whatever you want to call it, agave ferment, agave wort, I guess that's probably the appropriate term. But we're gonna let this pump into the 2 tubs. I'm gonna swap it over once this one gets full, and that's basically what we're doing here. Letting the pump just do all the work. So, it is another day, and not gonna lie, I forgot to film an outro for this video, so that's why we're doing this right now. But in regards to the agave, it didn't go as horrible as I anticipated it would. I thought it was gonna be a complete mess and nightmare moving it into these tanks, and it wasn't. It was actually relatively easy, made a little bit of mess. You probably saw me clean it up there, but overall it went way smoother than anticipated, so that was freaking awesome. Please do me that favor, like, comment, subscribe, do all those great YouTube-y things. We appreciate the heck out of you. Next week, we are going to be doing an awesome video. It's going to be kind of the last American single malt mash I do for probably the next few months at a minimum. So I'm excited. I'm going to do a little bit more of a in-depth, a little bit more like really deep, and kind of try to get semi-nerdy in a way with the mashing. So stay tuned for next week. But that is a wrap for today's video. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for keeping up and supporting me in these videos. But that's a wrap. Cheers, y'all. We'll see you later.